Hello everyone, we are Group 3 and Group 4, and this is our crash course video regarding political dynasties, titled Political Dynasties in the Philippines, a Moral and Ethical Perspective. Now, our agenda for this presentation is to explain what political dynasty is, its effects, its ethical analysis regarding political dynasty in the Philippines, and ultimately what it is. Now, for our agenda, we have the introduction, the key issues, the legal background, the ethical analysis, and ultimately the conclusion. For our presenters, may I introduce Mr. Evangelista John Lloyd, Mr. Mark Lawrence Oliva, Mr. Mike Russell Ricohermoso, and last but not least, Ms. Hannah Patricia Temporal. So to everyone watching our presentation, mabuhay! We would like to leave you with a small saying that encapsulates what political dynasty is. Power passed, not earned. The cycle of political dynasties in the Philippines. Now, political dynasties. You may ask yourself what specifically it is. Well, political dynasty, in a sense, is families whose members successively hold or simultaneously occupy elected government positions, passing power from one relative to another across generation. Now, these positions may include the mayor, a governor, a congressman, a senator, or even a president. Now, these dynasties often rely on family name, wealth, and political networks to maintain control. Now, the roots of political dynasties often lie in historical power structures, where, as we said, wealth, ownership of land, and social status are ultimately concentrated within these families that run for these positions in the political state.
Part of the foundation of Philippine politics. A study from the Ateneo School of Government found that around 70% of members of Congress belongs to political dynasties. These families have established political strongholds in cities and provinces, using their influence to stay in power for decades. The 1987 Philippine Constitution clearly states that political dynasties should be prohibited. Article 2, Section 26 says that the state shall guarantee equal access to opportunities for public service and prohibit political dynasties as may be defined by law. However, there is a catch. The Constitution requires an enabling law to define and enforce this ban. Sadly, no such law has ever been passed. Why, you may ask? Because the people who should create this law are legislators. They are mostly members of political dynasties themselves. This creates a cycle where dynasties protects their own power, making it nearly impossible for reforms to happen. Problems is the concentration of power. Only a few families control major political positions, making it hard for a new qualified individuals to lead. This creates a monopoly in governance, which weakens democracy. Next is the issue of corruption and patronage. Political dynasties often use public resources for personal gain or to maintain power through loyalty. This is made worse by our culture of utang na loob, where people feel indebted to politicians who offers favors. Lastly, political dynasties weaken democracy and slow down development. With limited competition, public service becomes poor. Areas controlled by dynasties often suffers from poverty, poor education, and weak infrastructure.
For the legal background, power passed, not earned, the cycle of political dynasties in the Philippines. A political dynasty forms when a family retains power by securing at least one elected position across multiple generations. This can manifest as one family member stepping into a role previously held by a relative or different relatives occupying various elective posts simultaneously. For the constitutional provision, 1987 Philippine Constitution Article 2, Section 26 states that the state shall guarantee equal access to opportunities for public service and prohibit political dynasties as may be defined by law. This means the government must ensure everyone has a fair chance to participate in government, and it should also prevent the dominance of families in politics through mechanisms defined by legislation. Lack of enabling law refers to a situation where a constitutional provision or a law requires further legislation to be implemented or enforced, but that enabling law has not been passed. Therefore, no law has ever been passed to define or enforce the ban political dynasties, and the Congress is dominated by members of political dynasties, creating a conflict of interest.
For the ethical analysis of political dynasties, in terms of utilitarianism, it answers the question, does it produce the greatest good for the greatest number? So, political dynasties often serve a few families at the expense of many. They lead to inequality, poor governance, and slower development. It is a moral philosophy that evaluates actions based on their ability to promote the greatest happiness or benefit for the majority of people. So, in terms of deontology or Kantian ethics, it answers the question, is it based on duty, rules, and fairness? So, dynasties violate the principle of equal opportunity. They treat power as a tool for personal gain, not public service. So, political dynasties go against the idea of fairness and rules because they give power to certain families instead of giving everyone a fair chance to lead and serve the public. For the virtue ethics, it questions what kind of character does it promote? It promotes entitlement, not service or integrity. It lacks virtues like justice, honesty, and compassion. So, political dynasty often encourage leaders to act out of self-interest and pride instead of showing good character traits like honesty, fairness, and care for others. In terms of social contract theory, it questions, are we following the rules of fair governance? So, dynasty betrayed the democratic promise of equal representation. It undermined the people's agreement to be governed fairly. So, political dynasties break the rules of fair governance because they keep power within a few families instead of letting all citizens have an equal chance to be represented in government. So, for Filipino moral perspective, it answers the question, how do our values affect our politics? So, one trait of the Filipinos have the utang na loob or debt of gratitude, which leads them to trap the voters in loyalty to dynasties. It conflicts with bayanihan or the community welfare, which promotes shared progress. So, our value shapes our politics because when voters feel they owe loyalty to powerful families, it can clash with the value of bayanihan, which is about working together for the good of everyone. In conclusion, political dynasties are ethically wrong across all perspectives. They harm society, violate our moral and democratic values, and block progress. But change is possible. We must push for strong legislation, invest in voter education, and encourage more citizens, especially the youth, to participate in politics. Democracy only works when we hold power accountable and make space for new voices. So, efforts to pass an anti-political dynasty law have been ongoing for decades. It is the Senate Bill number 2730, or the Anti-Political Dynasty Law, and the bill seeks to prohibit relatives up to the fourth degree of consanguinity or affinity from holding or running for elective office in the same city, province, or party list group simultaneously. So, the challenge lies in the fact that many lawmakers themselves come from political families, leading to potential conflicts of interest. So, as a result, the passage of an anti-political dynasty law remains a contentious and unresolved issue in the Philippine politics. And that's all. Thank you.